G'day campers, how are you? And welcome to another Thursday night live around the campfire. I'm loving these conversations and I'm loving opening up the opportunities from a heart-centered place where we sit and we talk about topics that most people don't want to talk about, and these topics that we're talking about are really important. We're going to learn each other and learn to be a community that supports one another. We have to talk about the tough stuff as well. So tonight we're here to talk about death. And tonight I've got some amazing people. I'm so grateful that I've got these three people in my life, and I'm learning about each of them because they all bring a unique talent to the table. But not only that, they bring their heart within their occupations and to the campfire and their communities with them. So I'd just like to welcome the two new guys on tonight, which is just fantastic. G'day, Nicque. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks, Kylie.
Hey. Thank you. Look, I'd like for everyone to watch both all Kylie's, Nicque's, and Trevor's one-on-ones at some point because they are well worth it. And after tonight, you're going to feel them and you're going to want to watch it. So, yeah, get around it. So, welcome, Nicque. Thank you for coming on for the first time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. G'day, Trevor. Thank you for joining us. And amazing one-on-one put up yesterday. So how are you today?
Thank you, Scotty. I'm good, thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. And we've got
thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I can't wait to open this up. So I've got the gorgeous Kylie Hutchison. How are you, mate?
I'm good.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So rather than me introduce what everybody does that's not my profession, I'm going to ask each person to share with us their profession, so that they can give us an insight as to what they do. And then we'll open up the conversation around their professions. So, Nicque, would you mind going first and sharing with us what a funeral director does in the death world?
Yes, I'm a funeral director. I have partnered with a company called Picaluna Funerals. So we're not one of the major corporates. In fact, we are one of the few that are very transparent in what we do, and we don't actually have a funeral home as such, so we don't have an actual building, so therefore we don't have those costs that we then charge to families. And our intent is to create funeral services or memorials or celebrations of life or anything beyond or in between that truly represents who the person was. And I'm also a registered celebrant, so I often not only facilitate from as soon as somebody passes away right through to then delivering the service as a celebrant for families. Yeah, that's what I do.
Excellent. So you're a registered celebrant in the aspect that you actually do the services for the funeral?
Yes. So a registered celebrant covers weddings mainly.
Yes.
You don't have to be a registered celebrant to be able to MC or present a funeral. But registered celebrant essentially means that I can do weddings as well.
Okay, brilliant. So how did you get into the registered celebrant of a funeral?
My story started actually with losing a child last year during pregnancy, and it's a bit of a topic that's happening at the moment with people that lose a baby through pregnancy, with Meghan Markle acknowledging that she lost a pregnancy in July, I think it was. So just going through that process, it's something that you train when you're becoming a registered celebrant anyway. So you do cover funerals as well as other celebrations, baby naming and the like, when you're doing all of the requirements to become a registered marriage celebrant. So it was something that I was already aware of. However, after losing my son last year, it was, the door that kind of just naturally evolved into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Trevor, So, as a mortician, what is it that you do?
I'm a qualified embalmer. I started out with one of the corporate companies, Lapine, and then I now work for a family-owned funeral home. Very much like Nicque's, we don't have a lot of overheads, things like that. The personal with the clients that we have and the families is so much better than with the corporates. And I'm not bagging the corporates, but at the end of the day, the personal or the way we can actually get in with those families, as Nicque would understand, you can actually be one-on-one with them, and you're not rushed with things like that. But my career path is now I embalm the deceased for the loved ones to give them back their loved one for that last viewing, or even just to know that they are at peace. So it's a hard job, but I love it. It is a passion. You know, some days I have my moments. If I'd had a young one like Nicque, and my condolences to you, Nicque, on the loss of your son. They hurt, those little ones. So it doesn't matter how strong you are. So that's my career. I have done funeral services. I won't do arranging and things like that at this stage because it's just I get too involved with the families. So I'm happier being out the back. I do talk to families, but not very often. So that's it in a nutshell, Scotty.
And I've just got to say, if you want to, I'd really encourage everybody to watch our one-on-one, and the love that you give to your clients is just spectacular. And the way in which, like, to actually have someone request that you're their embalmer in their will, it's a very, very special thing. And that just shows me how much you love people, mate. So thank you. So, Kylie, death doula.
Yes.
What is a death doula?
Completely non-medical. A doula, it's an ancient word that means of service. So there's been birth doulas around in Australia for probably 20 years. And the death doula is the same, just at the other end. So in other countries, it's also called a midwife of death. If that explains it to people, what we do, it's just be there at the end, help people through planning for what is actually the inevitable. So non-medical, talk to everyone involved in it about what's going to happen, what to expect, plan A, plan B, plan C. It doesn't always go the way you think. And what they can control, and I advocate for my clients' rights. So if they want to stop treatment, they're allowed to. If they want to be kept at home, they're allowed to. If they want to be cremated, they can organise it. If they want to be embalmed, they can organise. But all of these things need to be talked about, and that's what I do, facilitate all of those conversations and help them get whatever it is they want for their death. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. It's the one thing that I'm sort of becoming aware of is the importance of actually discussing death with your family and your loved ones.
Yeah.
The more detail you go into about your own preparation for your death and your passing, the less stress it gives to the people who are missing you and are grieving you. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to ask each of you, what are some recommendations you would give to people about preparing a will, or even the importance of it? So I'm actually going to start with you, Nicque, if that's okay. We'll go through the same way again.
Okay. Yes, I 100% agree that it does aid in families healing the more that people prepare. So the more you can get in writing. With the will side of things, for me, it's more about having it in writing as to what you actually want, whether that be my final song being Highway to Hell, or Don't Wake Me Up Before You Go, Wake Me Up Before You Go, or I Did It My Way, or whatever people choose. It's a very tough discussion to have, of course, and I only advise you have it when you're in good spirits, if possible, so that way, you can, well, for me anyway, I tend to like to have a lot of humour in my life, particularly in this industry. You need to be able to laugh. So I've said to my kids, for example, I want to be brought home, because, we've got two types of death, and that is sudden or expected. And, you can't prepare necessarily for all, or you can't prepare people as much as you could. Sorry, what am I trying to say? When somebody passes away, there's still that shock value. There's still, that level of disbelief. So what I'm trying to say is, when I pass away, I want my family to have me at home, so therefore they get, I guess, comfortable, or can accept the fact that I've actually gone. And so then those next steps following, the funeral, cremation, will be much easier for them to process and deal with. So I think it's really important that people have that written down, because it does take that, particularly for a sudden death. Again, families are reeling from shock and grief, that if they kind of have a little bit of an idea of what we all want when we meet our maker, and we cross that inevitable line, that it just takes that pressure off them having to make those decisions on that family member's behalf. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well answered. Thank you. So, Trev, for you, the experience of having wills and the importance of it, does that affect you as well?
It does affect me. I've had families that have, or the deceased, knowing that they were going to pass in, whether it be 3 months or 6 months' time, they would say, as Nicque said, I want to have songs played and those things. But for me, more so, what they would like to be dressed in, or how they would like to be presented, or if as Nicque said, somebody that wants to go home. Those sort of things are, if the family have to deal with that after their loved one has passed, it is so much harder for them to deal with and to come to terms with those sort of those questions that the funeral directors are going to ask. If they can have those pre-planned, and this is where today's pre-planned funerals and those sort of things, without trying to advertise for anybody or anything like that, if you know that you are on last days or last months, or even you have cancer and those sort of things, you can at least do it the way you want to do it, where it's not the way that your family might choose. You might have families that are fighting, siblings that fight. I used to be, with just slide off, I used to drive for the funeral home. So I was taking the families backwards and forwards, and they used to fight over jewellery and things like that with mum's jewellery. Now, if mum or dad have set up a will to say this is what's happened with the funeral, with all my things, it just takes that legal side out of it and any arguments out of it as well. But it does make my job a little bit easier, because I know beforehand what's going to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd say it was important to try and get through that paperwork and get that done.
Yeah, it's a legal a will. If somebody dies intestate, which means they haven't got a will, basically it is very hard for the families. They have to say it was a sudden death, and there was no will ready. The legal side of things is so hard for them. They have to money, properties, just families in general, where they fight between one one brother might not be talking to the other brother or sister, or mum and might not have spoken to the kids and those sort of things. Whereas a will give that clarification. Now, there are problems with wills sometimes. Obviously, people go and want to challenge wills, but at least the initial funeral part will be looked after in that sense. It doesn't always happen. You know, if somebody passes very quickly, as Kylie said, as Nicque said, they may not have the will. Somebody of 30 may not even think about a will. They may look at a will and go, no, I don't need one of those. Whereas I think personally we should all have one from the age of 18 where it's legal, just to be able to satisfy those people and those family members and help them out later on.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So, Kylie.
My little rant, my soapbox about wills.
Yes, let's get it on.
45% of Australians die without a will. And my question is,
how much percent?
45% of Australians die without a will. And my question is, what the fuck are you all thinking dying without a will? Seriously, it is a shit fight. If you love anyone, love them enough not to leave them a shit fight. It is basic. You can go to a post office and buy a $30 will and fill it in, and it is legal. If you own anything, do a will. If you own a car, if you're 18, if you own a car, if you have debt, you have superannuation, which comes with life insurance, get a will. You give the government enough bloody money. They take enough money. If you die intestate, the government will take all this money and then sit on it and think about it and let everyone defend why they should have something from you. Meanwhile, if you've got car payments that have to be made, you know, your car can run out of rego and nobody can sell it on you. So the government will just sell it like a fire sale and you don't get anything. You know, like I can't believe people own things. I can't believe people have children and don't have a will. It is the most important thing you can do. If you don't do anything else, at least do a will. To stop being a shit show for your loved ones. If you love them at all, do it. It is so important and so easy. If you have crazy, complicated finances and families that fight, go and see a lawyer. And seriously, it's less than $1,000. If you don't own much, it's $30 for a basic one. And it's completely legal. You just fill it in. You don't even need anyone, just your friends, to sign it off, and it's done. But I can't stress it enough. It's like you need to tell everyone, talk about it. It's the thing I say. First thing, have you done a will? And if they go, oh no, I don't want to do that because I might die. Newsflash, people, you're going to die. You can't stop that.
No.
You can maybe postpone it. But
it's funny, isn't it, how people have this expectation that if you talk about death, it's going to tempt your fate.
I say that. Talking about sex doesn't make you pregnant.
Pregnant.
No, doesn't make you die.
Yeah, yeah. Look, can I back Kylie up and just say that anybody who has experienced losing a loved one, there's so much paperwork to deal with aside from the will part. It's, you know, just letting bank accounts know, letting family, friends know, letting businesses know, you know, their memberships to things, you know, getting a phone call, you know, 6 months down the track after they've suddenly lost a loved one and they, oh, did so-and-so want to renew? Oh, sorry, that person's died. There's so much to go through, so much red tape, that then having those layers, you know, of not having a will and having all of that information not being set in stone, so to speak, there's already enough to deal with. So
it is, yeah. I mean, I have a list that I give people, and it is A4 piece of paper. These are the things that you may have to contact someone over this, and it's everything. It's, you know, you think of the big ones, your banking and your insurance, but it's things like, you know, my friend. Her mum died and she got phone calls from the charities that she donated to going, oh, you know, we're checking in and we're wanting to do this again, you know.
Yeah, got to start again.
And certain things get direct debited out of your bank account. and they just keep going, you know. So without a will, those things just disappears. Then the government takes all that.
Well, is there any services people could use to actually get these lists? Where would people get these lists to actually help them?
The list, you can get them from, just Google it. Who do I have to contact when I die? Centrelink put one out. New South Wales government, health departments put one out. Various different, they're
a lot of the funeral homes do it.
Yeah, funeral homes probably do it.
Yeah. We advise families. Yeah.
Same sort of thing.
If it's okay with you, I'm going to go a little bit sideways here, because there's something that I've picked up already that I think is really, really important, because both Nicque and Trevor, when you were talking about funeral homes, you're both working with funeral homes with more meaning rather than the ones that, and look, there's a purpose for everything, you know what I mean? But the difference in working with funeral homes with meaning and actually putting more consideration into the death process must be making a significant difference on you personally, but also on the people grieving. So I'm going to go with you, Trevor, on that, please.
From my experience, Scotty, with having worked in both a corporate funeral home just before they became went onto the stock exchange, whatever they call that now, where they were listed on the market, and the change from that, where it was like we were a little bit personalised, to it was all about money. And as I said, I won't mention any names. So the funeral home that I work for now is a family-owned funeral home. They've been 40 years in the local town that I live in. And it is so much more personal because we deal with the families that live in the area. We know most of those people that live in the area. We do get people come in from interstate all over Australia, but a lot of our work, our clientele, for per se a word, is local. So we get to know those people before they pass, and then their families, and it becomes a repeat business. And Nicque would know that the families will come back to you if they feel comfortable with the way that you've looked after their loved one, whether it be mum, dad, child, or grandparents. At the end of the day, it is that personal care that we have with those families. Whereas if it's just a corporate, yes, we do have the funeral directors that go out to those people, but it is all about money. They're trying to get the bigger, better dollar for the shareholders out there. I know my boss is paying me. Nicky's boss is probably has to be paying her, otherwise she wouldn't be working. At the end of the day, we are all in it for our living and to be able to survive. But that personal, to me, that personal experience with the families is so much better than what I had with the corporate. I never saw anybody when I was in the mortuary with the corporates. I was very lucky if I ever saw a family. When I was in the transfer side of things, I might have done it, or if I was on the funerals before I became an embalmer, then I would meet the families. But now, as an embalmer with Bill, I actually get to see them. They come in and they will give me a hug, or they'll have a cry with me, or they'll ask me to make mum's hair, a big bouffant, or like the Queen, or to shave dad. Or I've even had families come in and dress with me, so they dress their loved one with me. So it is a very personal time, because I am the last one that actually looks after their loved one. So with the corporates, I didn't have that. I still had their loved one and I still cared for them the same, but I didn't have the contact with the families that I do now. So, yeah.
Do you think the families have a better experience because you do have contact with them?
From the, and I don't want to sound as if I'm trying to make it in, from the feedback that I get, it is something that to me, that is that personal. It is, they do get that. They get that. They are happy when they go away. There's times when nobody is, going to be 100% happy. And I say that in a grieving process, they're happy. There's not, joyous, happy and things like that, but they can have a laugh or a smile, or they can walk out in knowing that, for me, mum or dad was in a condition or a presentable way that they could say their last goodbyes. And I did do that with the corporates, but it was just, as I said, I didn't have those close contacts with the families that I do today. I don't do it every day. I don't see the families every day. I'm locked in a little room at the back. Unfortunately, nobody wants to see me. It's a gross area, they call it, but sometimes smelly. But it's one of those places that I do get the families come in, and as I said, I do have them dress with me. So it is. I believe they do get a lot better service, and that contact with us. So.
My heart beats with the love that you have for people, and the job that you do is one of the most special gifts you could ever give anybody. So, I'll never stop thanking you for that, because it's just such a beautiful thing. So, thank you for that. Nicque, so in your experience, do you remember the question?
I do. Something about. No, I'm kidding.
The more personal,
Yeah. First, I want to give Trevor a virtual warm hug, because I can feel the emotion coming from you. And 100% right, Scott. What he does is phenomenal. I don't know what the statistics are, but I have a feeling it's something like 1% of the population are us, dealing with this side of it. Might be 5%, I don't know. Let's just say 1% because it sounds better. Yeah. But I'd say it's very small, with the other side of it. From my experience, I chose not to work with a corporate. I did actually get one-on-one training and had representatives from one of the large corporates, and every grain in my body, every single ounce of me was just fighting it. Being told that this is what we do. We book a photographer, we book a videographer, we do the flowers, we do this, we do that. And I just thought, how, not everybody, funerals can be so expensive. And, if there's a sudden death involved, even if somebody's been ill for a long time, who has surplus money just sitting around, just, okay, here's a $30,000 check just for, half the things I didn't actually ask for. My experience is that they had even said to me that they say whether some songs are okay, some poems that they may want, family might ask for, that these particular funeral companies will say no. And it is 100% about money. And my message is about educating people that they have a choice, that it's about creating the time and the space, and they don't have to be rushed. It's not about, okay, somebody's passed away on a Sunday, they have to be buried or have a cremation by the Thursday or the Friday. That is not the case. And it shouldn't be, although it is, where it's 45 minutes in a crematorium setup. So you've got 7 minutes to get people in, you've got a 30-minute service, you've got 7 minutes to get people out. You have to sit with the family, who's going to speak, okay, how long is that going to go for, and time your whole service. And if somebody says, I'm going to speak and send my loved one who I've just lost, away with this eulogy or whatever it is, and they cry through it, instead of them taking 2 minutes and 20 seconds and it ends up taking 3 minutes. And then another person gets up and they're emotional through their delivery of what they're saying, and then that takes another minute or two. You've got them up the back doing these ones to the celebrant. You've got to cut out, 4 or 5 minutes of what they've just eaten into out of that service and move them out. And by the way, you can't go out that door because we've got another family lining up. You have to go out that door. So, I just disagree with it. I think it is gouging families. There's a lot of investigation that's been done, particularly on some of the major corporates and how they operate. So Four Corners did a story that you'll be able to access on SBS. I think it's called After Death, and it exposes a lot of what these companies are doing. They're not being honest with families. There's a situation where a corporate had a family who passed away in, I think it was Melbourne. They owned a crematorium in New South Wales. They charged the family, this is going to cost this much to have the cremation happen here. So say that was $1,000. I'm just throwing the figures out because I don't think they said cost, but as an example, say it was $1,000. But so they took the body across the border, had them cremated at the crematorium that they owned, which was probably $200. So there's their markup of another $800, and didn't inform the family. And apparently this was common practice. And it's really important, as Trevor was saying. It provides families so much comfort to know that their family members are being looked after. However, I think part of the problem is that you're not educated on exactly what happens behind the cloak and dagger. Death itself is under cloak and dagger, but then nobody really understands what the process is. And, you've got people like Trevor who are doing everything with such love and such care and compassion that if that was my father that passed away, you'd want to know. But I think people just have this expectation that this is what's happening, but really, actually, I'm sorry, it's not. And these companies are actually having training where they're encouraging their funeral directors and their staff in their funeral homes to upsell, which is just corporates can get away with it, and they've been getting away with it for far too long. Which is why I've joined a company like Picaluna, which are completely opposite. Anything that we do for a family is wholesale, and the invoice is wholesale. So if you order a casket and it's $400, it's $400 on your invoice. And then we mark up, we only charge a 35% service fee on the overall invoice. So everything that you see is at cost. And then we donate 10% of our profit to a charity of the family's choice, so we can give back.
That's beautiful.
Sorry, I went on for probably far too long then.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And you actually blanked out when I thought you were swearing a lot. So I think
Scotty, just to with Nicque, where she said they would upsell, I've had families that have been pushed to buy a bigger, better, more expensive coffin. I've seen it happen. I've heard the words coming out of the funeral director's mouth, and they were told that regularly. The markup on coffins was somewhere in the range between 600 and 700%. And to me, it's hard enough with losing your loved one at the end of the day than being ripped off by, not so much ripped off, but not told the whole truth. So, yeah, I just wanted to, clarify, or not clarify, but, agree with Nicque on that one, sorry.
And that's awesome, because that's what it's about, right? We're talking about people, in death, and we're here to talk about how to help people, because death's a very hard time, you know, like it's, and I commend anybody that works in it, because it's such, I'm going to sound crazy here, but it's a beautiful thing to get to know somebody, right? You've got 90 times more chance of winning Tats Lotto than you do of actually getting the opportunity to know somebody. It's 8 million to 1 chances to win Tats Lotto. There's roughly 7.8 billion people on the planet. So to get to know someone is fantastic. But to get to know them intimately, and you actually get the opportunity to know someone well enough that you grieve for them, you know, like it's the last gift of love in my eyes. And you're giving love to people in what you're doing in its purest form. You know, and I think it's at that time of life, it's the most important to support everybody in that, because everybody deals with things differently. You know? So I'm actually going to jump over to Kylie before I go into that section, if that's all right, because otherwise I'm not going to tangent. Kylie, your experience with that?
Like I tell everyone, you know, the first thing you've got to do is have your conversation about your will. But the next one is what you want to do. Because if you talk to your family, you go back 100 years, we didn't have funeral directors, and we didn't have we definitely didn't have corporate funeral homes. We did this at home. Somebody died and they were laid out on the dining table. And if you don't know, that's where the myth comes about why new shoes can't go on the table. Everyone's heard that one? You can't put shoes on the table?
Yeah.
And it's got to do with laying the body on the dining table and dressing them at home. That's what we did. That's where that came from. So we used to do this. The family would gather and the village would gather and feed the family, and people would go and make a coffin, and people would go and dig a hole, and they would dress the body, and then we did all this ourselves. And then it became like, oh, society said I should do it. We should just brush that aside and know, you know, that's death. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to do it. And it leads to a whole heap of other problems about why we deny death, which is another issue I could go down and rant about. But we go, suddenly there's this secret society of funeral directors, and not Nicque, obviously, but there's this corporate thing, and not Trevor, saying, oh, I'll take it off you and you don't have to look at this, and here, I'll just charge you this and charge you, just go pay it. And I've seen them do it. People are grieving, and I've heard a funeral director say, is that the kind of coffin you want to put your mum in? Oh, yeah. And I want to just go, fuck off. Like, what? Like, really? Who lives with themselves that says it? Like, seriously, how do you live with yourself when you say that? Like, it is preying on people at their most vulnerable. And if you haven't had the conversation, if you haven't talked about what you want, if you haven't planned this, then that is what is going to happen. Somebody will prey on you at your most vulnerable. And there are beautiful examples of funeral directors here. Oh, I've got the pen and I can line you up with anyone. But find them now. You know, you find your hairdresser, you find all these people that you liked beforehand, pick someone that you like and go, well, that's what I want. I want this. I want, you know, I want to make it. And, you know, and I have done a full funeral where we stayed, the lady stayed at home. It was the most beautiful experience. The family washed her and dressed her. She was home for 3 days. The funeral director came and picked her up whilst we were building the coffin. He was amazing. He then came and picked up the coffin and did all that, put her in it, and it was a most amazing experience for everybody to be involved in doing this and writing on the coffin and making it. And it made such a difference to the family's grieving process, because
very cathartic healing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Lots of cathartic healing. Yeah.
Because
100%.
Even if it's expected, like Nicque said, there's this shock that happens. So even if you know that they're dying, there is this shock. But having the body after death, the body there, it releases something in your, and there is actually a science thing for it. I shouldn't do science, but there's a whole science thing that it releases things in your body. So you start to register that has gone. And then you see it physically. You see them. And Trevor will tell you there's a term about in the death industry about they get deader. Like when someone's dead, they get deader. Like it's a few days, but you go, oh no, they're not there. What made them that person, my loved one, then that's not there anymore. And what is and you register, and it helps that grieving, and it is so valuable, especially in sudden death, especially. It really needs to happen. But there is this mysterious curtain that we've allowed to put up. And I'm all about tearing it down. I'm happy to put my hand up and be a funeral industry disruptor. Love it. Bring it on.
Can I add to what you were saying, Kylie, as well? Just with regards to, this is another reason why I love working with Picaluna. We encourage as much family involvement because of that exact same reason. The more they're involved, as hard as it is, you know, a lot of people will be really hesitant about, oh, I don't know if I can speak because I might fall apart. Well, this is the time to fall apart. This is when we're creating this space, and it's about allowing these feelings to be felt, and this, you know, go through the process. Don't swallow it. Don't shove it down. But yeah, we get heaps of people that, you know, decorate their coffins, or they draw on the coffin, and there's such a shift through the ceremony when the loved ones get up and they're either pasting pictures on, or they're writing messages of love, and everybody just comes together, and there's this beautiful just shift. I can't even describe it, but there's a shift, and people are laughing and they're smiling and they're enjoying, and you can't take away the grief. You just can't. They're going to feel the loss. They're going to feel the grief. But if you can lessen and aid in the healing through that process, which is exactly what you were saying, Kylie, and exactly what we encourage, makes a like difference.
Huge. Absolutely. And I've seen it happen with both ways. It's like been a traumatic experience, and it's been awful, and then others have had this. It can be horribly beautiful, is what I say.
I'm listening to this and I'm smiling, okay? And I'm picturing myself building my mum's coffin with Oscar, writing on the coffin saying, thank you so much for being a part of our lives. Yeah. And I'm smiling. Because even then we're giving her love, but she gives it back by being a part of something that we get to do and grow together. You know? Yeah. And a comment just popped up, and I really want to show it. And sorry, I can't see everybody's names. We actually have to register with StreamYard for their names. But death needs to come back into the family culture, not hidden away. To embrace death is to embrace life to its fullest. And I think all four of us are sitting here just nodding, because it's a part of life. And if we can, you know, learn to work together through it, we're much stronger. And the question one of the questions I've got here is the importance of involvement in funerals and getting involved in rituals, and, you know, just being a part of it must help with the grief process exponentially. Because like anything for myself, I work with a lot of different people, and if a young child doesn't get the opportunity to express how they feel about a death and somebody passing, the emotions is not part of the opportunities of understanding that life isn't there, it creates massive trauma. And I see it time and time again where there's, you know, lose my dad at a young age and no one's talked about it because we push people away instead of opening up. Okay, they've passed away. It's a shame, but they loved you. This was here. This was there. This was, you know, give them understanding and compassion. And I just see the more involvement we can have within death, the better we will be, not only as a family and individuals, but as a society. You know, so I'm going to throw over you, Trevor, and thank you, Chris, for that beautiful comment. So,
just a quick one on what you just said is death is since the old days or the 100 year ago, even 200 year ago, is now scary. People are scared of the unknown. As you all said, I don't want to know about it now. If I say something, I'm going to end up dying because I've talked about death. To me, it's a celebration of a life, whether it be from. Obviously, we can't celebrate the life of a stillborn, but in the same way, we can celebrate the life of a 100-year-old or a 103-year-old. But it is a celebration of a life that was somebody's. I've lost my train, but it's that out there for them. If I can give that back to them, to the family, and be able to take away that scary thought, and be able to help them celebrate it, that is what, that life, yes, it's gone, but I've still got all the good memories, all the good times that I had with my loved one. If I was at the end of the day, the person that was going to that funeral, having people write on coffins is a way for them to grieve, to accept that mum or dad or their best friend has passed away. Like, you lose a best friend today, the family deals with it, most of it. You're just sitting on the outer edge. At least if you can write on a coffin and give them a goodbye note, or I love you, or whatever it be. It is that acceptance and that being able to finalise that for you. And it's Kylie said, having somebody accept that is the death, whether it be by the main family or close relatives, or even just best friends, is something that needs to happen more. Death is not something to be scared of. Yeah, it's sad, and it's the only thing in life. They used to say death and taxes is two things. Well, I know a bloke that got out of taxes, but he didn't get out of death. Christopher Skates is the man I'm talking about. He did not get out of taxes. I mean, he got out of taxes, but he couldn't get away from death. And it's true. Death is coming for everybody.
Yeah, it's a great equalizer.
Yeah. And to me, it is, if I can, as I said, if I can give back a loved one to the family, friends, or whoever it be, that is, it helps them with that process of the grieving process that they have to go through. And it is a normal process. It's the same as being angry or sad or happy. It is a grieving process, is part of that normal bodily function that we go through. Kylie said it before, that not me personally, but I need to see my loved one has passed so that my body can accept that, my mind can accept that. And it does. It is a chemical reaction inside the body that happens. It's the same when we cry and those sort of things, without going into all those weird and wonderful chemicals that come out of us. But it's that the body, the mind picks up on that death and accepts that death and helps you to move on from losing your loved one. And I have seen it every day over the years.
I'm sorry, I'm still smiling, and because here we are talking about death, and there's so much love involved in it. If we're willing to work through it together and accept, and it's one of the big things that I learned through the Wild River bushfires was that everybody deals with things differently, and nobody experiences anything the same because it's all based upon their experiences in life. But the key to it is to experience it together, listen to one another, share the stories, And I just, one thing for me, I encourage, and I keep bringing it up, raise a pen, right? Because we keep talking about, you know, like we're talking about death at the moment, and how many people wait until a funeral to tell somebody how they really feel and to really let that out. You know, I mean, I just encourage as much as everybody to get a will to let people know how much they mean to you as often as you can, because you never know when you're never going to get that opportunity again. You know, and I think that's really important. And you've painted a picture in my mind that, you know, like everything for me is to do with smiling. My email address is I hope you're smiling. So, you know, I'd want to have my pine box, literally just a pine box, with everybody just writing their letter hoping I'm smiling, you know, just written on the box, because it's just, you know, let's I've enjoyed life. I've enjoyed people. I've enjoyed so many things. And most people do. Most people have so many beautiful things to be a part of. And I'm, you know, like I've got a friend who buried his 7-year-old daughter not long ago. And, you know, we're talking about it. And he's had to open up the conversation inside a post saying that, you know, like his little heroes died. And everyone's condolences. Mate, tell me why she was your hero. Tell me what things you loved about her. Share that love with me, because that's the stuff.
Celebration.
That's the beautiful stuff, you know. So, yeah. Look, it's funny, you know. Like I've got a heap of stuff I wanted to go through, but we're already at 51-minute mark, you know, and that's we haven't even scratched the surface. But what I'm feeling and what I'm getting from you guys is that we need to work together on this, and we need to plan these things, and more importantly, go back to our heart center to try and work with it. And maybe a little bit less corporate, maybe a little bit more feeling. Got all three smiling at that one. Okay. So, you know, take that on board. You know, that's an opportunity. But I'm going to ask each of you just one thing. And actually, I'm going to ask you to give me two things, if that's all right. One, what has been one of the best ways you've seen a life celebrated? And two, what's the best bit of advice you've got for somebody who is dealing with death? So I'm going to start with you, Nicque, if that's okay.
Okay, the first one I was like, okay, I've got this. The second one I was like, oh. So some of the best ways, or one of the best ways that I've seen a life celebrated, I don't have just one. Again, dealing with our families through Picaluna. One gentleman was nearly 60, had cancer. He stayed at home, had a lot of female friends. He ended up passing away 3 days before his 60th. They'd already planned a 60th birthday party, so that ended up being his life celebration in his backyard. Had all people around him. He was in a really beautiful wicker casket. You know, he's a very earthy kind of guy, liked to surf and things. He had his surfboard and people riding on his surfboards and whatever. So he was there to celebrate his 60th birthday. And some of the women had taken their bras off and popped it in his casket. All the women carried him out. So that was a really great, unique. It was something that was what he wanted, which was really important. We had another guy who said that he only wanted to be dressed in thongs and a tie and be face down in the coffin, so everyone could kiss his ass. Yes, which I think actually was from a movie as well. We had this other lady, this one. I know that you've asked for one, and I'm giving you more than one, but there's just one more I want to mention. This lady, she was a huge earthy woman, like just believed in everything to do with the earth. She she was Danish, but she loved the Aboriginal culture and everything. Anyway, she wanted to be in her designer dress, full makeup, hair done, everything. They had this gorgeous wattle flower it's called a coffin cover, but the flowers were absolutely beautiful. And then the family organised to have a tree as well. So you had the tree, and then you had her again in a wicker casket. Anything, it all had to be sustainable product, and it was just amazing, just absolutely amazing. But my advice for somebody that's going through grief at the moment, it's not easy one to answer. Just be in your feelings. I kind of look at it like we're passing the baton on, if you like. You know, we are here for, a good time, not a long time, as they say. Some of us a long time. But I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and she says to me all the time, was that that must be really sad, so-and-so died. She hears me talking about death all the time. And my answer to her is it's only sad if the person hasn't lived. You know what I mean? So I think, and I live sort of being in this industry, it reminds me to seize every moment. And like you were saying, express to people how you feel, be as authentic as possible, be centered, be, what matters most, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not really sure with advice to give to those who are grieving. Seek help if you feel you need it. But live your life. You've got one, don't waste it. Will that do?
Perfect. There's no right and wrong. It's just beautiful because you're sharing your heart, and that's what this is about. So thank you, Nicque. Perfect.
The best one because I don't see a lot of funerals now, and I do get out on the odd one. I do a lot of transfers from nursing homes and hospitals, but the best funeral that I ever did back in the day was one where everybody had to wear pajamas. It was for a young girl that no matter wherever she went, she was in her pajamas. If she went down to the shopping centre, she went to school in her pajamas. And we all had to wear pajamas. If we could wear pink pajamas, that would be great. But we had to wear pink, and we had to be in our pajamas. Now, as funeral directors, we actually fulfilled her wish, and we were able to give her that final goodbye. We all got in our pajamas as well, in that sense. So it wasn't. It's not the normal for us, but normally we're in our suit and tie and stuffy looking pompous ceremony type thing. But yeah, it is nice to have those special moments and be able to contact the family, or not contact, be in with the family. So that was one of the big ones that I had. Sad, but because she was only young, it was a tragic loss. But it was, for me, it was a big celebration of life for her, and all her friends that come, where everybody was dressed in pajamas. Nobody come in a suit. It was great. The other one for the grieving process is to allow it to happen. Don't be scared to cry, laugh. Remember the people. Remember that loved one that you had all that time with, or didn't have a lot of time with. But allow yourself that time that you need. Don't rush it. If it takes you 12 months, if it takes you 3 months, if you need that time for yourself. But remember those people, those loved ones that have gone. Whether it be, as I said, the 103-year-old grandma or grandpa, down to the stillborn. It is something that you, or somebody that you've loved. And I know stillborns, are loved before they. Once you find out that you're pregnant, it is a magic moment. So that love is already there. So it doesn't matter from that moment right through to, as I said, the oldest one person I've ever looked after was 103. I know people have looked after older, but that grieving process for the family needs to happen, and that needs to be allowed to happen. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wow.
The best way I've seen something's a funeral celebrated is personalised. It doesn't matter. Nicque said it, Trevor said it. It doesn't matter what it is, but the ones that they remember are the personal ones. Somebody putting bras in a coffin, someone wearing pajamas, writing on coffins. The best way to do it is personalise it. The only way you're going to personalise it is to talk about it beforehand. So the best advice I can give for the grieving thing is I'm going to use visual aids. So this is your life, right? And then you'll be going along with your life all happy, and then something happens which will cause you grief, and it will affect this much of your life. There's no getting over it. There's no getting around it. You have to go through it, and then the only way to do it is to increase your life around it. So you'll have to, it will be your life, and then after this you'll just have to increase more and more and more until eventually you'll have exactly the same size, but lots more life around it. And the only way to get there is with love. You have to go through it, and the perfect way through grief is whatever is right for you. If it means hanging on to everything for them for 3 years, if it means cleaning out the cupboard after a month, if it means having the person stay at home, if it means not having the person stay at home, if it means selling the house and moving, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's yours. It's your journey, and the only way through it is to go through it and to increase what else you have in your life with love. It all comes back to love. Did I make you cry, Scott?
I just...
Sorry.
I
got my hanky, Scotty.
Oh, man. I just want to close tonight with nothing from me but thank you. Thank you for loving people so much that you give them this beautiful gift of love when we need it most.
Of course, honey.
It's an honour, Scott. It's an honour.
Thank you.
Oh. To be able to look after somebody's loved one is an honour.
It absolutely is. It's, yeah.
I'm so proud.
It's just a gift. I am blessed to be there.
I'm so proud to sit here with 3 people who just love people. If we can learn to love each other just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot more, please. Not just a little bit, a damn sight lot more. Yeah.
So sorry.
Don't be sorry, Scott. This is beautiful.
I'm just, thank you. I don't have anything else. I'm just, yeah. I'm actually going to finish on that. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Nicque. Thank you, Kylie. One of the most beautiful conversations I've ever had.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Important topic to have.
Yeah.
Very important. Thanks, Scotty.
Until next time.
Yes.
I think we'll be back on this.
We will meet again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just take care? Take care. Thank you for watching another Thursday Night Live. Next week, I'm going one out. I'm on my own next week. I want to share with you a year for me and the Campfire Project. What I've learned, the love that's been in the group, something else for me to talk about. And I'm here for questions. I've learned a lot in the last 12 months. I've sat here with my father. I've sat here with my son. I've sat here talking about death. I've sat here talking about menstruation. I've sat here talking about all the beautiful topics of just beautiful, beautiful people helping me grow, helping us grow. So I'm going to sit back this week. I'm going to go back through what I've done. I'm going to share it with you, and I want to talk about it. If you've got any questions, I want to talk about it. But I'm going to encourage anybody who's watched this to reach out, please, to Trevor, Kylie, and Nicque if you want some advice about something. Because these are three people with beautiful big hearts, have experience, and will love you with everything they've got. Hope you don't mind that, guys. But you really hit my heart tonight, and I can't thank you enough. So to everybody, thank you. Have an amazing night, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.